So eventually you built out this like branded content division from scratch that I think grew to like 50 million in revenue in 3 years. Like, why branded content? Why did you land on branded content as sort of the main focus for BuzzFeed's revenue? Because I assume there was sort of a bunch of debate in different directions you could have gone there.
Yeah. So shortly after I joined full time, they hired a president, John Steinberg. He was a Google ad salesman before that. And he came in and his job was to monetize the company and the site. And, we tried a lot of weird things to start. We tried selling caffeinated beef jerky and buckyballs. And then buckyball started having problems where young people were swallowing them and they were attaching to their organs and they had to have surgery. So we decided not to sell buckyballs. So, a lot of weird affiliate things that we tried. And then we created a partner network where we created promoted ads in the feed that were other pieces of content from other sites. And we felt like we could create a cross promotion network where we'd feed them traffic and they would pay for that. And we kept that going for a while. But the reality of it was we sort of like looked back to the drawing board and didn't want to crapify the site with like banner ads and traditional static ads, just like it's a shitty user experience where like you're trying to load something and like you're hitting it and like, your thumb is too big and you're hitting the X and then the ad expands. And we just felt like that was so incongruent to like a good user experience for product, and we viewed content as product, that we decided to kind of go back to like David Ogilvy's way of thinking about advertorials, and that's sort of how we landed on branded content. The reality was that, and it's so funny to say this at the time now because it's just like it's so table stakes. Ad agencies and companies and brands had never ever done creative content. Content was not an advertising product. Like it just didn't exist. It was banner ads, standard units, TV ads, all of like the traditional ways of advertising, but nothing like social or branded content like existed. So we had to like walk into advertising agencies and companies and brands and say like, hey, this is the future of how people will share advertising. And like we believe this and it should be native and it should feel very in line with the content that they would consume on a daily basis anyway. But that was a battle. It was a really big battle because they didn't have budgets allocated to social. They didn't even know what social was. Social didn't exist in its current form. So it was definitely like a hard thing to like basically rewire an entire industry's thinking on how they reach their consumer. And also a lot of them didn't want to think that way because it sort of, you have the people that want to change everything and we're very excited to do that. And then you have the old school way of thought and it's like, this will never work. And we're too comfy and everything is good. Let's not like shake the cage here. Yeah. So it's challenging.
Yeah, no, I worked at an ad agency as sort of my first big marketing job, and yeah, we would go in and pitch stuff, but we actually realized, all right, we actually have to educate them on Facebook. Like what is Facebook? Because you would get these like stupid questions basically from them of like, wait, so there's this thing and that, like, and you're like, no, like, yeah, it was just like, oh wait, this is like talking to my mom essentially, that I got to convince and teach them and then I can sell them on the value of it. But yeah, it's such a funny thing. And then like one problem I definitely encountered too was like, make this go viral, right? It's like, and I assume for BuzzFeed that was like probably so annoying.
Oh my
Like,
God.
how did you overcome that?
My PTSD from BuzzFeed is the two things that we would hear, which is make this go viral, let's make it a meme, and the idea isn't big enough. We had, I will not name them, but big brands come to us and be like, turn this into a meme. And we're just like, that's not the way the internet works. What we can do is we can pick up on something that's already going viral and apply it to like a framework in which we can incorporate you, but we can't just like it's going to look for like the you can't force a meme. It's like you really can't force a meme, and people see through it and they're like, this is advertising. Like that's just not how it should be. And there was the biggest challenge was just you're working with us because you understand our voice and you believe in our way of thinking. Like let us put the foot on the gas a little bit and take control of what we're doing here because we're going to be best served when we can have a little bit of authority in how we position you within this format and this framework. And some companies just couldn't do that.
Do you have a favorite campaign that sticks out from the branded content side?
Yeah, a bunch. We did there was one campaign for GE where we turned the site into like a time machine, where we then wrote BuzzFeed articles from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and the entire thing flipped. So you could just see like what BuzzFeed would look like in the 70s or the 60s, and it was just so cool. It was really creative, and like people loved it. That was great. We did a campaign with Beavis and Butthead for the movie, where we had them basically like vandalize the site. So every post was vandalized. The site we had it crossed out with graffiti and had it called ButtFeed. It was just like very native
That's
to
very
like
fun.
what you would expect on site. It was like the perfect advertising campaign. Another one we did with Purina. It was called Puppyhood, and it got 30 million views. They just turned it into a movie. Like it was, we did some really great stuff. So there were definitely companies that allowed us to like flex, and it worked.
And I'm even remembering now, this is the era of like big site takeovers were such a thing. I mean, I
Yeah,
remember doing those. It's like, that's like, yeah, wow, I forgot all about that. Like I haven't thought of that in years. I'm sure it's still a thing, but yeah, that's funny. And then I assume like, was your ROI that you would say to them, was it like direct response or brand advertising? Like how would you sort of prove the value of these things?
it was organic and viral lift.
Yeah.
It'd be like, hey, we seeded this on the site as a result of the 100,000 impressions. It got 30 million views and 50,000 shares. That was like during the time when Facebook was so aligned with us that things would get like 50,000 shares. So the ROI on that, like they didn't fully understand it, but we're like, look at these numbers. Like 50,000 people not only clicked like, they shared this out with commentary to other people. So I mean, it was very easy to show it. Still hard to explain it perfectly, of like how this goes back to building brand, and how this like how sentiment grows and all of that good stuff. But yeah, I mean the ROI was easy to show.